Hello, people of the internet.
Hello.
Welcome to our review discussion of Persona 5 Strikers. My name is Caleb, otherwise known as DanDy, and I've got Nick here with me. So, hello to the people, Nick.
Hello. It's classified.
All right, and both of us are pretty big Persona fans. I've been a little Persona fan a little bit longer than you, but you have gone super hard into the series after getting into it.
We're gonna change things a year ago.
So both of us we're very very excited for Persona 5 Strikers, and very happy when it got released here in the West. And we both played it pretty hard after it came out. You streamed yours on PlayStation. I played the Switch version. I did buy the PlayStation version. I did buy the PlayStation version. PC version, PC version also on my wish list on Steam. So if it goes on sale, we'll go ahead and add that to the collection as well.
Yeah, mod that one.
everything is just jack-o'-lanterns. All you see is jack-o'-lanterns. You got to target the enemy in order for it to see what the actual enemy is. But yeah, so we both have different. We both played it on different systems. So I think that will probably affect our views a little bit of it, since the PlayStation version was significantly more. Well, since your PlayStation is significantly more powerful than the Switch, you did have a probably cleaner experience versus my experience on the Switch. But don't get it twisted. The Switch version is very very good.
I've heard things about the Switch versions, but I mean, I played on the PlayStation 5.
Yes.
So that's probably the best way to play it besides PC.
Yes. I more than likely, yeah. But if you do have a Switch and you wanting to would you rather have a game like this on your Switch, don't shy away from it. The Switch port is solid. 30 frames per second. I didn't really feel like I noticed it, nor did it hamper my gameplay at all. And the visuals were still very very clean. So, let's just get into general impressions about the game. Nick, how did you feel about it overall? I mean, so you came off you didn't play the original Persona 5. You played Royal, so maybe not taking into effect the Royal content. Do you feel like this was a worthy successor to Persona 5? How did you feel about it?
Yeah, no, I thought it was a worthy substitute. I mean, we just removed like the ninth palace and store and just kind of inward the eighth palace. I thought it was a good continuation of the story. And I have gone back and like watched the original NG on view what happened there. So kind of the differences. We'll go into details later. But I thought it was a worthy successor. That's a story left off from a good place from that point.
Okay, I felt the same. I really thought that the as a successor to the original Persona, I thought that it was a worthy successor. I think Royal and this one were in active development at the same time, so they couldn't continue off Royal. But I think, in my opinion, Royal is probably the definitive ending.
Oh, it is.
Which we'll get more into when we talk about the story a little bit more. But Persona 5's villains were evil for the sake of being evil, and Persona 5 Strikers villains kind of continued that. Whereas Royal took it in a different direction, where the antagonist ended up being a little bit more than just mustache twirling evil. I'm greedy and one of the 7 deadly sins.
I didn't feel the Strikers villains were as cartoonishly evil. I mean, Kamoshida in the first game, the base game in general, wasn't. He was evil for evil's sake, but he didn't feel cartoonishly. He felt like something you could come across. I mean, as you went along, like kind of Shiro was definitely cartoonishly evil.
Yeah.
And Shido definitely was. But at least in this one, I feel like they tried to give some of these characters a better backstory. Than they did the first time around, but we'll go into details with spoilers later. But I thought the villains in this were okay.
Yeah, I just what I mean by that, I think they fell in line with the original cast of villains in the original release.
I mean, the game starts off with literally the same Castle of Lust into Vanity into Greed again. So I mean, we're following the same path again.
Yeah. Not to say that's a bad thing, because obviously Persona
No.
5 is fantastic.
Yeah.
All right, so I think the biggest deviation from the original to this game is definitely the gameplay style, going from turn-based combat to a active Muso style combat. And so I think the best thing we could do is we could split it up into what worked in this style and what didn't. And for me, I think the combat worked, given that they styled it kind of like Final Fantasy VII Remake, where you had time to give people commands. To give the character that you were controlling commands, and that slowed down time so that you can still strategize what you were going to do, kind of in the same way that you could in a turn-based combat. Did you agree, or did you feel like that hampered the experience?
Compared to the originals, I didn't prefer it, but in terms of, there's a Muso style, I actually probably think it's the best Muso game I've played. Compared to say even Hyrule Warriors or Fire Emblem Warriors, those games are literally just Dynasty Warrior games with that franchise's coat of paint.
Yeah.
This felt like it was finally trying to blend a Muso game with that original franchise was from the first place. So I do wish it was a bit more like Final Fantasy VII, like I could command the other characters I wasn't controlling, but I got over.
Yeah. I would agree. Yeah, you kind of froze there. All good. Technical issues first time round. Obviously gonna happen, but sorry. No, I agree. I my biggest hamper with the gameplay is just that I wish that I could command the character that I wasn't controlling. There were so many times where someone would get KO'd and I'd go to cast Recarm and I'd have to switch to Sophia or Morgana, and then during that switching period, they're liable to get hit, so you had to like immediately hit the action command button to stop time and be like, okay, hit Recarm, hopefully it goes through before I get hit. Because unlike in the original game, with this being active and also being Muso, you take so much more hits than you would have otherwise. I mean,
burned through way more SP than I did in the base game.
Yeah, and I was using items left and right too when in those instances where I didn't feel like I had enough time to switch into another character to cast the spell that I needed. I was throwing out revive items left and right, especially towards the later half of the game when some of those fights become ridiculous and some of those mobs become ridiculous.
I didn't expect because I knew the cooking mechanic was going to be in the game before it came out. And I just felt like, okay, that seems like a cool little minigame. I'm not going to really mess that. No, that becomes like life-saving.
Yes. Especially some of the later recipes that give you health or SP back and also cast buffs on you too. I towards the later half of the game, I was spending money on protectors and cooking ingredients, pretty much exclusive. Anything that Sophia put on sale, I bought.
Dude, anytime Sophia had like more cooking ingredients, I'm like, okay, well, I'm just buying everything out.
Or when a request popped up, it expands cooking ingredients inventory. Yep, let's go. Stopping everything. Yeah. Sorry, Konoe. I'll get to you in a bit. I need to go freaking stock the store full of his cooking ingredients. So yeah,
the items, because like Final Fantasy VII Remake, where your items didn't pause the game, you could still use your items in combat.
Yeah.
And this, you literally pause the game to have to use it. I wish there was a better way to do that, because it felt like just the game could do a hard stop when you did that.
See, I feel the opposite way. With everything coming at you, I was grateful for those moments of reprieve. That way I could get my bearings and be like, okay, so I need to revive Joker, and then I'm going to go ahead and switch into Makoto so that I can hit this guy's weakness. It felt like another opportunity where time was stopped and I could strategize what I needed to do. So I didn't mind that too much.
I guess I just wish more, instead of just if the menu just took up the whole screen, where it made it like you could still see what was going on, but like time was frozen.
Yeah, I could see that being a useful change. Maybe the menu taking up just like a portion of it, and you can kind of, and maybe you can even still move the camera to kind of to see what's going on in the rest of the arena. That would be fine. I would say that would be a worthy change. Yeah, but overall, I think the biggest weakness of the gameplay is not being able to command your other units without having to switch. Because let's let's call the other weakness what it is. There are some characters that are considerably worse than other ones.
I never used Ryuji.
I tried. So each. And we'll get more into this again when we get further into the story of the game. But every single palace kind of corresponded with a Phantom Thief, and so the underground lab palace jail, was Ryuji's, and so like a lot of enemies were weak to Zio in that dungeon, and so anytime he wasn't in my active party during the story stuff, but like any requests and stuff, I tried to take him in there and use him, and I couldn't do it. I applaud the development team for trying to make each individual Phantom Thief feel different with different mechanics and stuff like that. But the downside about when you do that is not all of them are created equal. There were some that were significantly better, especially in the context of a Musou game. Haru freaking wrecked stuff. Absolutely wreck stuff. I mean, when you think about it, and it even makes sense too. Oh, she's got a grenade launcher. Obviously, she's going to be good at taking multiple waves of enemies out. But even further than that, her element is better than Zio as well because you can chain a lot of technicals off of Sayo, and so Haru was a mainstay in my party for most of the game. Ryuji got
even a grenade launcher, like in Royal when we went to your gun. As regenerates their battle, she only had one grenade per battle. Mm-hmm. Whereas this, she had like 5 or 6. So I'm just like, just devastating everything.
And then there's also augments in the bond menu that you can increase her ammo size. And so again, just not all Phantom Thieves are created equal in this game. I barely used Ryuji at all. I barely used An at all. And my love for An, but I was just like, man, she's not good.
I never joined my team again after the first palace. Well, I keep saying about the jail, but because she was the focus of that first jail, mm-hmm. And there's a lot of weakness to fire and the thing. So I mean, I used her then, but after that, she went straight to the bench.
Yeah, and it's like to contrast those two jokers who I think were the weakest. A lot of there were some really fun play styles to play. Like Yusuke, I didn't expect. I don't really care about Yusuke in the original game. But I played Yusuke as much as I could until I felt like I couldn't anymore because he has a counter, which is awesome because you're taking so many hits, and he was fast and did lots of AoE.
Yusuke is one of the better characters, unlike the base game where he just wasn't one of the best.
Yeah, you used him in Madarame's palace, and then
bye.
I used him at the end of Mementos, but that was the only other time I used him. Well, let's talk about general impressions of the new Phantom Thieves then. How did you feel about Sophia and Zenkichi in terms of gameplay? Since they had 2 new weapons never before seen in the Persona franchise, Zenkichi using a great sword and 2 pistols, and Sophia using yo-yos and a blaster gun.
So Zenkichi is kind of one of those characters who's just, I think, he's just broken.
Yes.
As soon as he joined the party, I'm just like, well, you're not leaving the team now, because I mean, his ability is literally Kaioken and start devastating everybody.
Especially when you get his rank 4 master ranks. That's master arts. That's something we didn't talk about yet either. The more you use a character and use their combos, you unlock master arts, which are basically they unlock new combos and new combo abilities for you. And Zenkichi's level 4 is basically he can keep swinging his sword until he can't swing his sword no more.
Well, also, like, he can throw, like, when he's in Fury mode, he can throw, like, the blades out, and it's like the Master Sword. So I'm just like, this guy has everything.
Exactly, and then you finish that combo off with an Almighty spell that,
He has Almighty. I don't think, when he first started, okay, he's going to have Curse, because no one has that yet, except technically Joker with Arsene, but still.
Yes.
But, like, okay, it makes sense. It'll be like, no, he has Almighty and weak to nothing. Like, oh, okay.
Excellent. Man, if they didn't shove Zenkichi down your throat like they did Kasumi down your throat in Royal, my God. But unlike Kasumi in Royal, fuck it. He's got freaking Almighty. So let's go.
At least then Kichi joins your party for a good portion of the game. Because Sumi's like, no, I'm not joining to like the last like 30 hours of the game.
All right. Well, this isn't a royal discussion. This is a strikers discussion. Well, so how did you feel about Sophia? I didn't enjoy her gameplay style as much.
Her combat was tricky.
Yes, it's definitely a if you master it, you're gonna wreck stuff kind of ability. So she throws out her yo-yo, and if you hit the button input for the next attack as she catches the yo-yo, you get increased damage and increased range. But when you're in the heat of the moment and you're throwing those things out, you're probably button mashing the entire time. So I didn't feel like I got it too often. I can't really comment on her guns because I barely used her guns. I barely used anybody's guns, to be fair, except for Haru.
The guns weren't particularly strong unless they were weak to guns.
Yeah.
But no, I mean, I had Sophia in my party for most of the game, but not as a combat. I thought her healing ability were just better than Morgana's, because she had Divine Grace. So, it made her medium, healing ability basically do full heals. So I'm like, okay, well, I need that because health is hard to come by.
Yes. I had Morgana in for most of the game just because Morgana had better spells, but yeah, the divine grace argument definitely can be made just because it's such a great ability.
Yeah.
But yeah, I felt like they were two worthy additions, and we'll talk more about that when we get into spoiler territory when we talk about the actual meat and potatoes of the whole thing. But in terms of general impressions, I felt like they were worthy additions to the cast. Both of them had very, very good fleshed out stories, and I think when you add a new character into an iconic ensemble like the Phantom Thieves are, you best be swinging for the fences. Royal did, and I think Strikers did succeed in that as well, to a lesser extent than Royal.
Yeah, it depends how you look at it.
Maruki. Even though you both did not,
we'll get to the spoilers because once you get to spoilers, the whole
yes,
Strikers are gonna get spoiled.
Yes. I'm just saying, Maruki is like Tens and Kichis, so it's lesser extent.
Yeah.
So in terms of general impressions, just overall, how does Strikers rank for you compared to the other Persona 5 properties? I think you and I both are in agreement it's not as good as the Royal content, but compared to everything else, where would you put it?
There's not much to compare besides the base. I didn't play the base, so from what I understand the base, though, I would imagine this is, roughly the equivalent. I would say maybe because I don't know the base had some issues with gunplay and things like that.
Yeah, in terms of gameplay, the original is definitely lesser than Royal, but I would put it above the original release of Persona 5, and unfortunately for Persona 5, it just doesn't have as much content as Royal and Strikers does, and so that's why it's below it. But every character gets moments to shine, whereas in the original Persona 5, if your name's Haru, man, you got shafted in the original release.
After Palace 5, just bye, we're not talking to you.
Whereas in this game, every single Joker had moments to shine, and I felt like they gave Yusuke and Haru, which are the two original Phantom Thieves that I felt like got neglected in the original release, more time to shine. Same with everybody else I feel like got plenty to shine in, but Yusuke and Haru were always muted voices in my opinion, and they got more screen time and more good lines in this one, especially Haru. I think if there's a definitive winner from Strikers, it's definitely Haru. Yeah. But obviously Royal is the definitive Persona 5 content, so
yeah.
And I think most everybody that's played all three of them would agree with that.
As long as they got to the Ninth Palace. I've heard some people play through Persona 5 Royal, but not do the requirements of the Ninth Palace and just be stopped at the 8th. I'm just like, no, don't,
man.
don't just stop there.
So that means they just essentially played Persona 5 with better mechanics. Oh, those poor souls, those poor lost souls.
I'm like, you missed the best thing some of the best writing you've ever seen in a game, period, by missing out the Ninth Palace.
That's like going to the movie, just watching the previews and leaving.
Exactly. The preview was like 100 hours long, but still.
Oh my! All right. Well, so I guess we'll end the general impressions here. That way we can get into spoilers and really talk about the brunt of the game, being like characters and story and stuff like that. So if you had to give a number rating just for those that haven't played the game yet and are running off to buy it after our insightful review, what would you give it? Like maybe out of 10?
I would say probably 8.5 ish, around there.
And for you, what keeps it away from a 9 or a 10?
I do have some issues with the gameplay still. I mean, I prefer the turn-based RPG. A lot of people don't like turn-based, but I'm okay with it. And Atlas has perfected the formula of 4 guys staying in a row and throwing attacks down.
Okay. See, I'm a little bit more generous. I'd give it a 9 out of 10. I think the biggest hang up that I had about it, aside from a few story beats, which I mean, not all story beats can be knockouts, but the biggest hang up for me was not being able to command your party members from the same menu. Don't understand why that wasn't implemented. You have the D-pad buttons to change Joker's personas. All you had to do was add a left trigger, R trigger to switch to the other characters and just select the ability. Even if they didn't let you aim it and they just let you command the person to cast the ability, I that would be much more impactful to the gameplay than having to clunkily switch characters, cast the spell you need, and then switch if you didn't want to play that character, switch back to the character you were already playing. It's just, plus every single time you switch, you have the baton pass the baton pass animation. So I felt like switching characters at some degree also kind of halted. It put stopgaps in the gameplay where I'm just like, okay, yep, Morgana slap Joker's hand. Yep, sweet, awesome, cool. Let me just hurry up and try to dodge this attack that's incoming on me. But yeah, I think that was the only thing that keeps it away from Royals 10 out of 10 in my book is just that stopgap. I mean, obviously they allowed you to command your party members from Persona 4 onward. I don't see why this was an exception to that rule.
I think it was the gameplay for the first time. I don't know.
Yeah.
I also have some issues with the story beats. Well, we'll get into why I don't think it reached the 9 status yet, but.
I mean, 8.5 is super respectable. I mean, it definitely is a great game, especially if you enjoy the Persona 5 series, I should say. If you wanted more time with the Phantom Thieves, the writing I feel like is just on par with the original Persona 5. All the characters get moments to shine, especially if you're a Haru fan. Oh boy, do you got a game ahead of you if you're a Haru fan. But definitely a must buy. Don't shy away from the Switch version. 30 frames per second in an action game's not necessarily scary if you program it right. And I felt like they fixed some of the loading screen issues from the Japanese original release. The loading times were not that bad on Switch. So, I mean, obviously,
I'm not sure what the loading time is.
Yeah, obviously, you playing on PS5, your screens were like that. But
yeah.
I like looking at the Phantom Thief logo. Okay. And being able to play it anywhere was also nice. I mean, so
I do want to get on the Switch just because we also want to encourage Alice.
Yes.
Port Persona 5 Royal to Switch.
Yes.
Please.
If you're an Atlas RPG fan and you haven't bought Persona 5 Strikers on Switch, buy it on Switch. Go out and pre-order Shin Megami Tensei 3 HD. And 5 when it gets released. We gotta get those games on Switch. Persona 4 and 5. There's no reason why they can't be on Switch. Persona 5. I want a Persona 3 remake first so that I can.
That's true.
So I can command my characters. But if you want to put 3 out there too, I'll buy 3. It's fine. Atlas, just keep it coming. Just keep it coming on Switch. Just keep it coming. Just keep it coming. Released on PlayStation 2. Yeah, released Persona 4 Golden on PlayStation as well, in addition to Switch, but just in addition to Switch.
Yeah.
All right, so that concludes the general impression part. So if you haven't played the game yet, go no further. Pause this video. It'll stay in your library. Go out, buy Persona 5 Strikers, play the 40-hour campaign, come back and see us, and we'll all discuss further into the game. So this is your spoiler warning. If you haven't played the game, please click off the video.
We're probably gonna spoil Royal as well.
Yeah, we're also gonna spoil Royal as well because I think that comes into play here. So go play both of those. So 170 hours worth of RPG ahead of yourself, but it'll be worth it, I promise you. So final spoiler warning: go play the games; they're amazing. We're gonna spoil everything. So I mean, where do you want to start, Nick? I mean, do you just want to start with we'll just go through the story and discuss as we go, or is there a particular moment that stands out to you that was either good or bad, or
we can start with the beginning, I guess. We'll do that way forward.
So I think the beginning of the game was one of my favorite parts of the game, because I felt like they did a good job of resetting up the Phantom Thieves.
Yeah.
So it was a villain that was close to home again, just like Kamoshida was. As the Phantom Thieves are shaking off the rust, at this point, Sophia is just kind of there.
Yeah.
For those that are not in the know, Sophia is an AI that Joker, Ryuji, and Morgana find in the first jail, and she's just in a box, just as you do. Joker touches it, releases her, and then she sets out on helping the Phantom Thieves and also finding out what it means to be human. The classic AI story.
Yeah.
So let's start there, I guess. How did you feel about that kind of, I guess, character introduction? Would be the appropriate way to say it. I felt as though it was. I felt as though I needed a little bit more information out of it. You just can't plop this character in my lap as a new playable character and A, expect me to care about her, B, expect me to want her to join the Phantom Thieves, and C, it just felt like she was plopped and they said with a little note around her neck that says, "We'll talk about this later. It's fine."
I mean, I kind of agree with that to an extent. I mean, I do agree she was plopped in there, but I was okay with not having answers having any answers immediately, just because I knew these games are long. Granted, it's not gonna be as long as the originals are, but these are long. I'll get my answers, so I wasn't worried. So
I wish that they would have, and this is something that I've thought about for a while. I just wish they would have linked it to something later down the road sooner. So if maybe Joker touches the box and it goes, it like name drops Ichinose's name.
Yeah, I mean that could have been nice, but I mean
you would have had the mystery, and then when Ichinose would have been introduced, you would have been like, whoa, what's her connection to Sophia? What's going on? Oh.
I mean, yeah, to be fair, as soon as Ichinose popped up, I'm like, I don't trust her. She's up to no good.
Well, yeah, because she had a character portrait, so
yeah, I was trusting her from the very get-go.
We'll get to her for a little bit, but yeah. So Sophia gets found. They take her back to the real world. She's stuck in Joker's phone essentially when they're in the real world. They know something's up, so they get the band back together. They all go back to the metaverse. They find out that this model that An knows named Alice, which. Let's talk about Alice for a second. She's literally Alice in Wonderland.
Oh yeah, no, that was.
They name drop Wonderland multiple times in this section of the game, and that's how she kind of looks as well. She has been stealing people's desires and making them obsess over her, essentially. And so that's when we get the first notion of the game, that we're not stealing treasures of people's cognitions like we do in OG and Royal. We are stealing back desires for people that have basically been victimized by these people that have this special ability. And Alice is the first one that we find about it. I I think the desire mechanic's kind of cool. I think it's because it's the Phantom Thieves rescuing people, so
Yeah.
it kind of puts them more at a hero point than.
I mean, they were still heroes in respect because they were still rescuing people in a more roundabout way in the originals, because obviously they're just going after the guy who's causing the harm in the first one, whereas this they're going directly to the being rescuers.
Yes. And even rescuing the monarchs or the rulers of the jail in that way, because as we go throughout this jail, we find out that Alice's trauma of being bullied in school is what basically turns her to the dark side, and with help from an app called Emma, which we'll get into way later, she's able to steal people's desires when she adds them as friends on this app.
Yeah, I thought it's weird. I thought she was a good intro villain for how this game was going to be.
Mm-hmm.
Like, oh, okay, we have more sympathetic villains. I don't think she was as I don't want to say where like resolve grabbing as Kamoshida was. Like when you finally the things hit the fan in Base Persona 5, when Shiho jumps off the roof, you're like, okay, no, we're taking this guy down.
Yeah.
This guy's going, and Kamoshida was just a piece of crap, whereas Alice wasn't.
Yeah.
So,
which I think is okay, because we don't need to have the resolve of the Phantom Thieves told to us this time. They are the Phantom Thieves. They are not becoming the Phantom Thieves. So a second that they saw something wrong, they immediately jumped into action. So I'm glad that they started off with Alice. I think Alice was a good villain to start off with, because her motives were very clear defined, and it was very clear as to why it was wrong. And it sets up that the idea that maybe these monarchs, there's more to the story, which obviously there ends up being. So I think it's a great introduction to Palace. And then so the monarch ends up becoming the boss, and Alice turns into a bunny rabbit that has a tail that says "Eat me" on it. So that was delightful.
that was fun as a Freddy's crap. I didn't enjoy that part.
But talking about boss battles, how did you feel about the boss battles in this game? All of them I felt like were pretty cool set pieces.
They were cool set pieces, but man, I felt they were honestly a bit more tough to figure out than the even Royal's counterpart, minus Palace 5 of Royal. But I felt like I felt like I was going to die at least once or twice to a striker boss, whereas I felt like I could take out. I didn't feel like I was at a bad advantage in the base.
With a couple exceptions, I never felt like I was in trouble during the boss battles. I felt like I had a handle on them, because most of the boss battles took place in a big arena, as you do. You can't just fight out in the streets in a boss battle. And there was always things lying around that were helpful. So that's another gameplay discussion that we didn't talk about. So in this game, there are things that you can jump onto, and it's called phantom dashing. And they're basically interactable objects that do something, whether it's you throw something that has an elemental affinity, or you blow up a car and the explosion hurts people. Those things are all over the map, and they really do make combat a lot more fun, because you have other things that you can utilize, even past just your spells and your regular attacks. And
I did feel the main bosses more as I feel like the sub bosses, the Lock Guardians.
Yeah, the Lock Guardians.
Those guys were tough because they also throwing the base enemies at you as well.
Yes.
So just like, ugh.
Yeah, I never felt like any of the bosses I had trouble with, but the Lock Guardians, there were some that gave me significant amounts of problems, especially if you had a party that wasn't good against the Lock Guardian boss. You were just like, oh, great, okay, cool.
It was almost random. Like, if by the time you get to the final the boss of the palace, you kind of have an idea of what they're going to be weak against. It's typically. With Alice, okay, we're focusing on Anna a lot. Anna uses fire. Alice is probably going to be weak to fire, and that she was.
Yep.
Not so the Light Guardians. Light Guardians just be whatever the heck they want to be.
Yeah, it's just any shadow that you could want, and it's like, okay, great. Some of them you get lucky, and it's like a bigger version of some of the shadows that you fought in the in the jail so far, but sometimes it's a whole new shadow that you hadn't seen before, and you're like, okay, great. I have Haru and Yusuke in my party. This thing is weak to nuclear. Great. All right.
Well, that wasn't a problem for me.
Well, yes, because you took Makoto everywhere. So yeah, no, I liked a lot of the boss fights. I liked a lot of the boss fights, and we haven't even. And so after you beat Alice, you kind of get the notion that these jails are popping up all over Japan, because Sophia can smell them.
Yeah,
that's just where we're gonna leave it, because she can smell them.
They never explained that. Just she can smell them.
Nope, they never explained it. I mean, to be fair though, they never explained why Morgana can smell treasures.
I mean, in a sense, both of them you kind of have a reason why. Morgana, because he was created by Igor and he's part of the metaverse, so you can kind of understand that. You know, they don't full out say that, but you gotta make sense. Sophia, I mean, we'll get into their connections to why, but it's a similar reason.
Yeah. But they never just blatantly say it. They're just like, she can smell them. And all the Phantom Thieves are just like,
all right.
Well, okay.
I mean, the past year they had, events like, what's going to bother them at this point?
Yeah, that's true. So they borrow an RV from one of Sojiro's friends, and they go throughout Japan, locking down these jails and uncovering a bigger mystery. As you do during summer vacation.
I do wish Sojiro called him up at certain points, something like that.
Yes.
Because once you leave him, he's not in the game anymore. I'm like, it's Sojiro.
Yeah, I would agree with that as well. It's especially since everybody, no matter what version of Persona 5 you played, you built a relationship with Sojiro. And you know of Sojiro's relationship with Futaba. So, yeah, I do wish that he would have called every now and then. Or he maybe even just give requests of, like, hey, pick this up for me on your way home or something like that. Just to have him interacting with Joker and Futaba a little bit more throughout the game would have been nice. But, yeah, you rent you borrow an RV from one of Sojiro's friends, and you hit the road with Makoto behind the wheel and Haru hinting that she can also drive. Hinting.
That's the way of putting it.
I can't spoil my favorite. I can't spoil the best part of the whole game yet. We gotta.
Yeah, we'll get to that.
That has a whole discussion in itself. So yeah. So the next jail you go to Sendai, and this author who I just straight up can't remember his name.
Katsumi.
It's something like that. It's something like that. He's an author who his trauma was he was a grandson of a famous author, and these publishers are using his name to peddle crap, basically. Well, to peddle his crap, but they push his name, and that's why it's selling well. So that's his trauma, and the desires that he steals is everybody is obsessed with him, just kind of like they were with Alice, except that he I don't know how to put it. He is greedy about the well, he thinks his stuff is better than everybody else's, and so his palace. So the first and second jails are just modeled after their cities, which is fine. Because they're starter jails. The
third one is too.
Yeah, but I mean that one it's frozen over, so it's a little different.
Yeah.
So, the author, you basically play out the events of his book. So the Lock Guardians are his cohort villains.
Yeah.
And the Phantom Thieves are the heroes to defeat the villain, but in the book, the villain wins, but not so much in real life. Well, in the metaverse,
yeah,
he turns into a dragon with an awesome JoJo reference, and you kick his ass.
I mean, I wasn't aware of the JoJo reference, but I'll believe it because what isn't a JoJo reference?
Yeah, so when he first transforms in the dragon and flies through and up, and he does this with his face, that's what Dio does from JoJo. And he got the blonde hair and everything. I geeked out hard during that moment. I was like, oh my god, they put a JoJo reference.
They're very similar franchises. I've yet to see JoJo. I'll get to it one day.
Yes. And Yusuke is the Phantom Thief of that one, and I feel like he gets a lot of good moments because they're both artists, and so the thing that struck me about that one was like Sophia was asking why Yusuke was sad instead of mad, and it's because Yusuke sympathized with him as an artist who had their art stolen and misrepresented. Like Yusuke sympathized with him, and I thought that was a really cool moment for Yusuke, whose character development in Persona 5 kind of just halted after Lobsters.
Yeah.
And so his character development past Lobsters was I like lobsters and
I
I'm
don't
broke.
have money.
Yeah. Where this one we get the first instance of greater character depth in some of the characters that were kind of pushed to the side in Persona 5 and Persona 5 Royal. So that was really, really nice. So then we move on to, what was the next city?
Saburo, I think it was.
Sapporo. Yep, Sapporo. And
Haru came out of nowhere. I was expecting Mako to be the front of that because so far the pattern had been the same as the first game. So okay, we're gonna do Green. It's gonna be Makoto's time again. So it was for that. And Haru was like, no. This is my story now.
Yeah, so this mayor of Sapporo is stealing desires and basically making herself the only candidate to stay in power because she's the only person that she thinks can clean up the city of corruption and stuff like that. And we find out that the mayor is a lifelong friend of Haru's father and spent a lot of time with Haru as a child. And I think that gave Haru a lot of moments of conflict because Haru is quiet, but she's super headstrong.
Yes.
And so the juxtaposition there was really nice to see. She obviously was in emotional turmoil, but put that aside in order to save her pseudo family member, essentially. And boy, what a boss fight! Easiest boss in the whole game.
Yeah, I don't know what it's called easy.
Oh, I definitely did. She did not put up a fight for me at all.
I think I died once to her. I'm pretty sure I died once to her.
I didn't die to her at all.
I don't know. I think I did. Because I think the her eating the Phantom Disease got to me. Because I was probably like, because I started like jumping on the chandeliers and dropping them on her before she started eating them. Yeah. And when she started eating them, like, I don't have these anymore.
Hey, guess what? You should have had Haru in your party. One Sio spell knocks the Joker right out.
Oh, okay. I did have Haru in my party at that point, just because, I mean, it was her story, so.
Yeah, the mayor turns into a giant. She turns giant, and then her face gains a mouth and eyes, and starts eating everything. So,
honestly, it was one of the more disturbing looking bosses.
Yes. Because up to that point, we had been like, oh, okay, these are okay, all right, and then that one's like, oh, okay. There's the Persona scariness.
Yeah.
We don't have dick chariots this time, but we'll make a stomach eat somebody. That's fine too.
Was there no? Could you not fuse Mara? The fusing system in this game was weird too. It locked you out from doing a lot of things strangely.
Yeah, I never fused Mara, so I can't say. But there's still lots of personas that I didn't have in my compendium. But the fusing system was not as clear as the original one was. Yeah. Even though they gave you more options to fuse, you ended up getting triad fusions and then quadra fusions and penta fusions, fusing up to 5 personas at once. And I never felt like I got anything spectacular out of them. Oh. I did a couple of the super bosses to get their personas, like Seth and Cerberus, and never had what I needed to fuse them. So
yeah. I did Seth, and I didn't have what I used to fuse him, so I was like, I'm not doing this again. That was difficult.
Yeah, that was super difficult. Cerberus was super difficult.
Oh god, that scares me.
So after Sapporo, you go to
the island.
Okinawa. Is Okinawa.
Okinawa, there we go. Yeah. And I feel like this is where the plot of the game really started to take off the main plot.
Yes, yeah. Up until this point, you had just been taking out jails and being the good guys, and this is kind of where the story turned a corner, and you start the mystery starts unraveling a little bit more. So on Okinawa, there's a beach, and so the obligatory anime beach day happens.
Yeah.
And I felt that was a good moment. I mean, the best thing about this game, in my opinion, is that it's more of the Phantom Thieves, and more so, it's more of the Phantom Thieves interacting with each other rather than just interacting with what's happening to them. And the beach scene's a great example of this because we got Ryuji being a perv, we got them burying Zenkichi in the sand. Makoto fucking destroying a watermelon. There's just more fun teenager moments in this part of the game. But then it all goes south when the villagers of this village that they're staying at clearly have their desires taken and start hunting the Phantom Thieves.
Yeah.
And the game kind of takes on like a horror game vibe for at least a couple moments.
That was creepy. Although the riders are walking the palace, I mean, it's just personal to me. Just like the whole scene with Makoto, I'm just like, wow, this hurts.
Yes. So just like in the original game, when they were sneaking around Sojiro's house, Makoto gets scared and hugs Joker's leg again. Which I thought was a nice callback to the original.
That was a good callback.
Because that's something I felt like this game did not do a whole lot of, was call back to the original ones. There were definitely moments where they did, but it definitely tried to be its own thing rather than going, hey, you remember this? Hey, you remember this from the original game? Hey, do you remember this? Which I respect a whole lot of. And I felt like most of the callback moments, that made them feel special. Like, I remember that. That's so funny.
Yeah.
But yeah, so you infiltrate this facility, which has been connected to Medice, who is the company that makes the Emma app. And throughout the jails, you're slowly discovering that the Emma app is connected to the metaverse and to these jails, because that's what they're using to get into the jails, as opposed to the metaverse nav from the original game. So the point of going to Okinawa was to find this facility to see if there was anything in there that they could use for their investigation. Because at this point they've teamed up with Zenkichi, who is a investigator for
PubSec.
PubSec, so public security. And at this point in the game, you think Zenkichi's got he's playing both sides, because the Phantom Thieves are suspects in all of these changing of hearts incidents where people are getting their desires taken. So Zenkichi at this point, using the Phantom Thieves, he gets them into the facility, and the facility's all scary.
It was creepy. Yeah, it's probably actually one of my favorite type of jails, though. Honestly, I like the creepiness of it.
Yeah, it definitely felt good being in there, because it was a different vibe than what we'd seen. It was a much smaller dungeon as well. No lock guardians or anything like that. There wasn't a monarch, which we find out why later. But the big moment from it was the revelation that Sophia can hear Emma's voice, which Emma is the AI that's inside the app, and they kind of have an argument where Emma tells Sophia that she's a broken AI, and Ryuji has one of the best moments in the game where he stands up to her.
Oh yeah,
stands up for Sophia, excuse me. And he gets to drop a couple of F-bombs and
F-word pass.
If they didn't get to say it, he didn't get to say it in Persona 5 or Persona 5 Royal, so we let the rebel shine in this one. And so so you find out that it's monarchless because the monarch's already dead. Yeah. And so you release the desires, the island goes back to normal, and then you head to Kyoto.
Kyoto, yes.
Yeah, because Zenkichi, it's discovered that Zenkichi has a daughter who is, what, like 13? I think that's what they said. 12, 13.
Somewhere right there, 13, 14, something like that.
Yeah, so they go to Kyoto so that Zenkichi can visit his daughter. We find out that Zenkichi's wife, Anakane, his daughter's mother, was killed by Owada, who is this congressperson, essentially.
Yeah, when that happened, I'm like, are we doing this again with this? I'm like, please don't worry, I'm going to his jail again.
Yeah, I was like, cool, Shido.
Yeah.
And then he even name drops Shido, and I'm like, oh my god, are we doing this right now? What are we doing? We've taken on the government again.
Yeah.
But luckily it's not that way, and we'll get into that.
They don't go that way, which is good.
But yeah, so you get the revelation that Akane's mother got killed by Owada, who has been teased as a villain so far in the game. And you get the revelation that Zenkichi could not bring the killer to justice. And there is heavy animosity between Akane and Zenkichi because of it. And I felt like Akane and Zenkichi's relationship in the game was the best writing in the game. It was a. Go ahead.
For I feel like we'll get to it later of like maybe like their awakenings, but we'll get into their awakenings later.
Yeah. But yeah, I thought that was some of the best writing because it was very human, and it was a unique. It was a unique thing to spotlight in these games. Was a father-daughter or a parent child interaction. I mean, they dipped their toes in it with Sojiro and Futaba, but it ended up just being quickly resolved no matter what. But Akane and Zenkichi's relationship definitely wasn't quick to resolve. Makoto has some great moments with Akane because both of them had police officer fathers. Both of them had mothers that died early into their lives. So this was Makoto's moment to shine, and I think they did a really good job with it.
Yeah, I agree.
I mean, you're the Makoto stan, so please enlighten us with your opinion of it.
I agree with that. I mean, I do feel that overall, compared, she had less screen time than the original. But I mean, honestly, she had. Besides Joker, but I'm not counting him because he's the protagonist. She probably had the most screen time by the Phantom Thieves, the original.
Yeah, aside from Joker and Morgana, yeah, absolutely. Actually, I would say she was the fourth most. Cause I feel like Joker, Morgana, and then Futaba all had more than her.
Yeah, I mean, I think you could argue with Futaba.
They could go either way.
Yeah, but she definitely had less. But I think how they used her, especially for. Akane and Zenkichi's relationship, she's been there. She means her father is gone. She can't make up with him. And I would imagine her relationship with Sai is still not great, or it's kind of strained. So I think they used her pretty well. Yeah.
And then at this point, you get the confirmation that the head of Medice. Kanoe is definitely pulling the strings of
he's in on it
of the Changing Heart incidents, and so PubSec ambushes the Phantom Thieves. They get away with Zenkichi's help because Zenkichi warns them, and so now the Phantom Thieves are on the run. They're wanted for the Changing of the Hearts incidents because Kanoe essentially frames them.
Yeah. Which. I sort of had a problem with that. Just in turn, I guess the point of the game's that society's fickle and stuff like that. But the fact that a year ago Shido did the exact same thing when framing them for what's his face, Akumura's death.
Yes.
And the public ate up, but in that case, you understood that. But now we know, after the game's events, they were exonerated. So we're gonna fall for the same trick twice.
Yeah, Zenkichi's boss, the commissioner, is just way too quick to want to bring the Phantom Thieves in. And granted, she was under orders of Owada and stuff like that. But even before that, she was like, "Oh, this is the Phantom Thieves. We got to bring them in. We just don't have evidence for it yet." So she tasked Zenkichi with finding evidence for it. So yeah, I would agree with that. That's one of the holes in the story is like, why did public opinion on the Phantom Thieves change so quickly? Because it wasn't just like the police officers. Like Konoe literally has such a grip on the world that he was just like, oh yeah, it's the Phantom Thieves, and then everybody's like, yeah, it's got to be the Phantom Thieves. Go ahead.
I was gonna say, yeah. I mean, it's just the same thing as they did last time, and it just doesn't make any sense why people would flip like that all of a sudden. Like, you fall for the same trick twice.
Yes, I agree. Yeah, it's just not not very elegant. Because I feel like they just wanted to put the Phantom Thieves on the back foot is essentially the writing of it, when they kind of already are, because they don't have any information. So you could have just kept them unraveling the mystery.
Yeah.
And it just seems like it seems like an unnatural way to bring Sai into the game. Because Sai ends up coming into the game for like 2.5 seconds. She doesn't even have a character model. You don't see her on screen at all except for her character portrait and a few lines, and she gets Zenkichi out of jail. Zenkichi finds the Phantom Thieves.
Although, where's my Sai Need You by Ace Attorney game now?
Yep. Persona 5 Ace Attorney crossover. Atlas, Capcom. Just do it. Just do it. It'd be great. It'll be great. Phantom Thieves have to go into the metaverse to find evidence, and then Phoenix has to present it. It'd be great. Phoenix and Sai have to present it. It'd be great. Flawless. 10 out of 10. Game of the year. Hey, Nick, I can't... can you still hear me? Because I can't hear you. Okay, there you are. Okay. Your audio cut out for a second there. Anyways. And two, it just seems... This is the point. This is the weakest point in my opinion. So in order to draw out the Phantom Thieves, Konoe makes Akane a monarch of a palace. Why?
I mean, they kind of explain it. They feel like, he knows they're very kind of selfless, so they know if someone they care about's in trouble, they're going to go after him. So I mean, I got it. I don't feel that was the biggest part of the game to me.
In terms of the story element, it is. Because at this point, I mean, how much does Konoe know about their relationship to Akane?
Well, I think he probably knew about Zenkichi.
Okay.
So, I probably could out there.
It seemed unnatural in my opinion. It
was very much third degree of separation, but I mean, I'm pretty sure that's what it was. That Owada knew that what's-her-face was, telling Zenkichi to be on the Phantom Thieves, and Owada in turn was telling that to Konoe because he was the one who was creating the jails in the first place.
Yeah. But I think we get some of the strong story elements from that just like not great decision. Wouldn't you know it, Zenkichi awakens to a persona.
That has probably one of the best awakenings in the entire series, honestly.
It is my favorite awakening in the entire series.
I probably need to rank them. I don't know how to put it. It'd definitely be among the top.
Yeah.
But I mean, the use of having like his shadow looking back at him, like his actual shadow, that was just stroke of brilliance.
Brilliant. Yeah. So he kneels down when he starts to get his persona, and his persona is awesome as well. But the shadow that he's casting on the ground gets eyes that are Valjean, his persona's eyes, and he's talking to him. And it's super cool because you always hear the persona's voice in the ether, but this is the first time we got to see representation of it.
Yeah.
And so he awakens to his persona, which is Valjean, which is based on the French musical Les Miserables. Miserables, I think, is the right one. But yeah, it's super cool. You know, he's got like colonial armor, like colonial styled armor on with chains and stuff. And yeah, as we discussed earlier, his element is almighty. Because why the hell not?
Give him with the strongest sword in the game.
Yeah.
Do a whole bunch of stuff. Why not? You're going to be using him after this point. So.
Yes, yeah. His weapon's a great sword. He rocks 2 revolver pistols, and he's styled after like a wandering swordsman, kind of outlaw type thing. It's all very good. And then they give him his code name, which is Wolf.
Yeah.
Which is awesome.
Yeah.
Because we didn't talk about Sophia's code name, which is just Sophie.
That's one of the worst code names. Like, no one's gonna figure it out. Really. Like at least the rest of the code names are like something. Like Mona's probably has the weakest of the normal Phantom Thieves because it's Morgana. But even then, Mona to Morgana is a little bit of a stretch. Sophie to Sophia is not.
No, I'm pretty sure in this video I've called her Sophie more times than I've called her Sophia. So
yeah, that was just dumb.
It was dumb, but Wolf, fucking Wolf, hell yeah. Yeah. So then Akane's palace was one of the most frustrating ones in my opinion, just because all the warping. Yeah,
the warping was a little confusing, but I felt like I kind of got it. I mean, I just started following the try and true. Hey, there's enemies in front of me. Okay, I'm going the right way.
Yeah, yeah. It just like when you return to do requests and stuff, it's just annoying. You're just like, just let me. I already beat the palace. Just let me go to the place where I need to go. Like,
yeah, I'll agree with that. I did want to hop back in there. I was like, okay, the warping's done. Oh no, I'm still warping. Well, this sucks.
Yeah. But and then her palace also has one of the coolest boss fights in the entire game. So Akane is a huge fan of the Phantom Thieves, and so she conjures her own Phantom Thieves, and then they all have one-on-one battles, and so your battle as Joker is against Joker.
I like the fight. I actually do have a wish though. What they did is I wish they would have made. Granted, it would have been too long if they did it, so like maybe make the health, a little bit smaller for each one. But have you go through all of them?
That's what I had expected to do, and then I beat the Joker the Phantom Joker, and the boss fight was done. I was like, oh, everybody else was fine. Everybody else was fine. Are you sure Ryuichi was fine? Because he was horribly underleveled.
I wish they would have done that. I think it would have been a cool moment just to go through all of them. I mean, granted, and what Paul should have done is, while granted, it would have been a game moment, but you just have to deal with it. Is all the families are fighting themselves, but have Sophia and Zenkichi still with whoever you're controlling, because obviously Akane's not going to know they're Phantom Thieves. She knows the original 8,
yeah,
because of the calling card in the last game, but she doesn't know the other 2.
Yeah. And you said calling card, and that brings me to a good thing. How did you feel about the calling cards in this game? Because I felt like everyone except for the first and last one were very lackluster. Whereas I felt like they were kind of consistently okay across the original ones.
Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to remember all the calling cards now from both games.
Well, because like in the original ones, they at least got read out loud, and I think only a couple of them in this game get read out loud, and I think that's just a cool like defining moment of like what's to come is like when the villain is reading like their sins essentially, and it's like, and they have that like, okay, this is fight or flight time kind of moment, and we didn't get that very often.
No, I mean, to be honest though, my favorite calling card isn't even, because most people I feel will say Shido's calling card is their favorite because how bombastic that one is.
Yes.
But my favorite's the Maruki's calling card.
Yeah, I mean, for different reasons, obviously.
Vastly different reasons, but that's just how more intimate it is.
Yes.
He knows it's coming and he just accepts it.
Yeah, I would agree with that. That's one of my favorites. I think Shido's one and Alice's one in this game are my favorites. I like the bombastic ones.
Yeah, I mean they're basically the same.
Yeah, they basically are the same. And that was such a great moment to kick off the game too. I was like, oh yeah, we're getting right back into it. But anyway, so yeah, you beat Phantom Joker. Akane's saved. and Zenkichi and Akane basically make up essentially as
Yeah.
as Zenkichi vows to use this newfound power to bring Iwata in and stop the changing of the hearts.
I did love how he's holding her shadow, he's crying almost. Oh, she just disappears. He starts freaking out.
Yeah, that was a good moment. And that's a good theme for the rest of the game too. Is Zenkichi's lack of knowledge for the the metaverse, and they just like straight up don't tell him anything.
No. When they get the blue, like, oh, we're finding a god now. It's like, wait, what? We're doing what now?
We're doing what now? Why are you guys being so casual about this? What? Yeah. So now that Konoe is confirmed to be the villain, you go to Osaka. Is the last one? Yep. And take the fight straight to Konoe. At this point, the Phantom Thieves have been absolved of any. They're still under suspicion, but they're not under arrest. Zenkichi's been freed from jail, so they do not have chains, and they're taking it straight to Konoe. Right. And Konoe sees himself as a superhero, so his jail is all futuristic and stuff. And I quite liked his jail.
The jail was good. I mean, yeah, they're a little obvious with the parallels they were drawing to a certain Marvel character.
Yes. Konoe looks a lot like Tony Stark, and as you find when you fight the boss, he's basically Iron Man. He wears an Iron Man suit, jumps into a Hulkbuster. But before we get to that, so Konoe's Palace made me truly appreciate the fact that you could leave dungeons at any time and heal. Because frickin' A, that was a long dungeon.
That was, yeah. I was desperately. I actually at one point left the jail, went like 10 feet because there was a bunch of enemies, just depleted everything. I'm like, well, I'm turning around and leaving again.
Yeah.
I went nowhere.
Yeah. There was multiple occasions where that happened, where I would have get into a fight and then have to spend more than what I wanted to and be like, well, that was great. Let's return and hope and not fight him next time I come back, because holy crap. Because they throw a strong enemy after strong enemy after strong enemy after you. And I get it. It's the final palace. I mean, the final jail in the game, but like
the final jail. Yeah.
But like, oh my God, those spider mech things were everywhere, and if you didn't hit them, they definitely hit you.
Oh yeah. That was one issue I also did have in general with the gameplay, is it felt like it was a lot harder to get the ambushes because they had to be like on them to do the ambush.
Yes.
So I hit triangle and it didn't fire. I'm like, wait, what's going on? All of a sudden they hit me. I'm like,
or there was also moments too where I was close enough, and as I was hitting the button, they walked away, and then so Joker just fired his gun, and I'm like, well, at least we got a hit, and it's not an ambush on us, but like it's not what I wanted. Yeah, the only way to ambush consistently was phantom dashing, and in Konoe's Palace especially, there was no place where you could phantom dash, at all.
It was actually also just kind of fun. The one place in the entire game where I actually benched Makoto for like a minute, because I forget the name of the persona that was fun, but the Ganesh, I think it was.
Yeah, the elephant.
Yeah, and he absorbs nuclear, so I was fighting him, and she got punching with nuclear, and just his health were going up. I'm like, no, stop this, please, I love you, but stop this.
And I'm over here going, that's the easiest fight. That's the easiest thing to fight in this entire dungeon. Thanks, Haru.
I come in because I had her bench for that moment, but I'm like, no, sorry, Makoto, you got to go away for now.
Yeah. Although I will say Konoe's Palace had my favorite Phantom Dash of the entire game. Those long hallways in the airport with all of those Nagas that are weak to wind, and you got on the carts, and you got to race through them, and it did wind damage. One of the requests was kill 20 Nagas, and I was like, I know where I'm going!
Loved also... Back in the second palace, you're riding the skateboards doing the same thing.
Yeah, and then the third palace with the snowboards.
Yeah. That was like, we're doing Final Fantasy 7 now? Is that what we're doing?
Is that what we're doing? Okay, cool. But yeah, so the final palace, futuristic city. People look at Konoe as a hero, and he sees himself as that, and it's discovered that his trauma is that he was abused as a child, and then he straight up kills his father. They don't explain how. They don't say anything other than, yeah, he totally murked his dad.
I mean, to be fair, I don't have sympathy for his dad at all.
No, absolutely not. And so he sets off to be the world's hero, and that corrupts him completely, essentially.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you get into this boss fight, and Konoe tries pleading with the Phantom Thieves that they're on the same side, and
which I mean, we'll go. I feel like we can circle back to this later of why I get what he was saying, but in light of what we've already experienced, even though Royal doesn't have anything to do with this, it just didn't feel as impactful.
I thought the exact same thing. I mean, actually, I feel like now is just the perfect time to get into it, honestly, because the final palace of Royal is what?
I was gonna say Dr. Maruki has ruined so many villains now at this point because he's my favorite all the time. How perfect he is.
Yeah, exactly. Dr. Maruki ends up being the villain in the final palace. Because his persona has the ability to change reality. And so Maruki sets up this paradise reality for everyone. And the Phantom Thieves have to do the hardest thing of tearing it down because it's not reality. And so Maruki gives this extremely heartfelt speech to the Phantom Thieves, saying that we're on the same side. I'm giving the world everything that you want to give them. Only I have the power to actually do it. And the Phantom Thieves still have to bring them down. And so in Strikers, Konoe makes kind of the same thing of I'm helping people. I'm getting rid of evil in the world by making everybody conform to this reality. Just like you guys are, and it just didn't land the same way after Maruki, because Maruki said the exact same thing, but
she proved it, because I mean, like, you walk through both of their ideal worlds, and Maruki worlds you understand the subtle like horror of what's actually happening, losing your free will, but everyone is legitimately happy. They're getting their dreams, whereas in Konoe's ideal world, they're just mindless zombies.
Exactly. And so it didn't compare in close. I mean, thank God I didn't have to rip Futaba away from her mom a second fucking time in this game.
Yeah.
But like that was the hardest thing to do.
I mean, that week after you first go into Maruki's palace, and you're like, you need to go talk to every Phantom Thief. You can spend $100 getting close to them and rip them from their dreams, give them depression again.
It's just so hard. Oh my God. For that, and I don't know what the development looked like with this, because P Studios, the studio that does Persona proper, did help out significantly with Strikers. So I don't know what the extent was, if the team that was helping Omega Force knew about Royal or not, but it just doesn't land the same way.
No, I felt it would have landed better if Royal never happened, but it did, and that's the reality now.
Yeah, and I also feel like it would have landed better too if they were closer in line in terms of viewpoint as well. Yeah. Because at the end of the day, the only thing that they really have in common, Konoe and the Phantom Thieves, was the changing of the hearts. They did it for completely different reasons, and I guess maybe it speaks to Konoe's evil intent that he sees himself as the same as the Phantom Thieves, but all of it just didn't land as gracefully as it needed to. Maybe if you play just base Persona 5, Konoe will be a better villain for you, but then you play Persona 5 Royal, and then no villain will ever be a better villain for you. Because taking down Maruki probably was the hardest thing I've ever had to do in any video game. Because
if you didn't cry at all during the 9th Palace, I mean, I don't know what to tell you.
Or if you did, even further to the point, because I didn't cry. I was heavily conflicted, because I'm like, oh my God, I ripped Futaba away from her mom. Makoto has her dad back. and her relationship with Sai. Yusuke has everything he ever dreamed of. An and Shio live next to each other now. Like, Ryuji's on the track team.
Yeah.
Morgana's handsome. Like, what? No.
The Morgana thing was the only thing. Like, you know what? Maybe this reality is kind of bad.
Yeah, it was just. Oh man. It didn't. The motivations for Konoe didn't land as well as they needed to. But damn, that boss fight. They made it up with the boss fight.
The boss fight was good. The only issue again I have with the boss fight is the use of rivers in the desert didn't land as well. Like, and this is again, you just put a base because they used rivers in the desert the first time against Shido.
No, they didn't. No, they didn't.
Rivers in the desert wasn't used against Shido.
They used rivers in the desert in Futaba's palace for the first time as the instrumental for the boss fight.
I'm pretty sure. I thought that was. I'm pretty sure that was willpower being used in the boss fight. Once, are you talking before or after Futaba awakens?
I'm talking after when you're fighting when you're fighting Bird Mom. It's rivers in the desert. It's just the instrumental though.
We'll have to look at it because I thought it was willpower. I'm like 90% sure it's willpower. We'll look it up later.
I mean, I've got a computer right here, so why don't we just we'll table this and we'll talk about the soundtrack overall because this is before we get into Konoe's boss fight.
Yeah.
But I felt like the soundtrack was pretty good. I really liked some of the remixes. Some of the remixes didn't hit so hard. You mentioned Rivers in the Desert. I did not like the remix. The remix for Last Surprise, though, hell yeah.
I think the Last Surprise are on par with each other. The remix for Rivers in the Desert is good, but it's not the same. It's just not the same. I mean, I feel like if we would have swapped them, like we put this faster paced one in the base game and put the slower paced one in this game, it still wouldn't work because the type of games they are. So the faster pace worked for this game, but still, just the moment of Rivers that are playing against Shido, and that's Joker's song and stuff like that. I just felt more impactful than Konoe. Whereas Konoe was like, okay, I understand you have some trauma too. No one here's attached to you at all. Has anything to do with you.
Yeah. Yeah, I thought overall the soundtrack was really good. You Are Stronger is a fun track. There's a new infiltration theme when you're about to send the calling card. Yeah, that's very good. I can't remember its name. But yeah, I think the only remix that I didn't like was Rivers in the Desert. At the very end of the game, when you get to hear Beneath the Mask, I was like, oh, now we're talking.
Yeah. So I think after that, I thought it was a good use of the two stage though. I mean, first you had the Hulkbuster against him. And then he comes out with a lightsaber. I thought that was a good way of using that character.
Yeah. Maybe I'm wrong.
Oh, you're still looking up the willpower thing?
No, I'm looking up Rivers in the Desert.
Okay.
I think you might be right. Maybe it is willpower. I don't know. Whatever.
Yeah, no big deal.
Hey, it's time to replay Persona 5 Royal, I guess.
I never wanted to do that, but I'm not going to do that for a while.
Ooh. Coming to my channel, maybe. Who sees? Who knows?
I have a plan, but that's for later down the line.
All right. Well, so yeah, let's go to the Konoe boss fight. So he suits up as Iron Man, straight up, jumps into a Hulkbuster, straight up, easiest boss fight in the entire game.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
So his attacks in his Hulkbuster are super telegraphed, and there's like these blasters that are on these higher ledges that when he flies up in the air, you blast him, he falls down and is stunned, and you get to wail on him. But then you blow up the Hulkbuster, and Iron Man jumps back out and whips out a lightsaber and says, "Let's go." And then the easiest box fight becomes very much harder. I thought that the sword duel essentially against Kanoe was probably the best part of the two-phase fight.
Yeah, it was.
Although I will say, I wish that at some point the party got separated or something and it was just a one-on-one.
Yeah, but I think, and again, kind of like when we go back to the Shido fight, it makes sense that when Shido, stomped his feet and just makes it you against Joker, that's Joker's moment because this guy ruined his life.
Yeah,
Kanoe has done nothing to them except.
Well, what I was saying is Zenkichi gets separated and it's a sword duel against two swordsmen. I think would have been really cool because in that then you would have similar emotional weight behind it since Kanoe turned Zenkichi's daughter into a monarch, and it's like, all right, let's go.
Yeah.
But yeah, you beat Kanoe. Kanoe admits that he has done wrong, and he agrees to shut down the Emma app because it's evil. And guess what? You can't shut down AIs because they learn. And as expected, the AI becomes the final boss in the game.
Yeah. The AI has gone to godhood because it's not a Shin Megami Tensei game if you're not fighting a god.
Exactly. I'm torn on this plot point. Because on the one hand, I totally saw it coming. The second that Emma is the app that they use to go into the jails, I was like, oh my god, we're going to have to fight this AI at some point. Sure enough, we do. But how did you feel about it? I mean, did you feel like this was shoehorning in a god, or? I
mean, to be fair, if you're not expecting to fight a god, as I said, it's JRPG. You're kind of have to do that. But especially in a Persona game, you're going to fight a god.
Yeah.
So it was to be expected. I mean, when I played Persona 5 Royal, I wasn't expecting that because I was going blind as a bat. Yeah. I knew nothing. I honestly, going to Persona 5 Royal, when the first time I played it, I wasn't aware of the whole concept of the metaverse and the whole was surrounded stuff by. So I was just like, okay. When I played Persona 4, I'm like, okay, where's the god?
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, so you get to go into the final palace, which is basically Mementos.
That I had. I mean, it was technically the second to last palace.
Oh, well, yeah.
They separate the Jail of Abyss from the Tree of Knowledge.
Yeah.
But I wish they would have done something different with Jail of Abyss, just because the game says, hey, this is very similar to Death of Mementos. Doesn't mean you're going to get away with it. It's exactly the same with Death of Mementos. I would rather them just be like, hey, we're back in Mementos.
Yeah. I definitely think that would have been a stronger choice. Because coming off Persona 5, you're already familiar with Mementos. You're already familiar with the evil of Mementos. Why not just call it what it is?
Yeah. And then, I mean, you finally get down there. I mean, it takes the form of the Ark of the Covenant. And it's like, okay, so we're doing this literally again. It's the same thing.
Yes. You literally walk into a similar room that the Holy Grail was in. So, which also just lends more to the why didn't you just call it Mementos? We got holy items down here aplenty. Just call it Mementos.
Yeah. Now, I did think it led into some of the stronger parts of the game. Probably one of the strongest parts is once the Ark flees, and Ichinoshe shows up.
Yes. Yeah, so we hadn't talked about we mentioned her previously, but Ichinose is the original inventor of Emma. She sold the AI to Kanoe, and Kanoe did evil tests on it, and that's how he ended up being able to create the jails.
Yeah.
And so Emma, now known as the Ark of the Covenant, basically tasks Ichinose of stopping the Phantom Thieves. And Ichinose then reveals that Sophia was her original AI prototype of Emma. And Ichinose is a very cold, unfeeling person and had created Sophia to figure out what makes humans humans so that Ichinose could learn, I guess. It's vague. I think they just wanted somehow to get a story behind Ichinose creating Sophia. But at any point, Ichinose deems Sophia a failure, locks her in her old house in Shibuya, which is why Sophia was in the Shibuya jail.
Yeah.
And so it's revealed then that Ichinose still has control over Sophia, and she orders Sophia to kill the party. You fight Sophia, but you don't lay a hand on her because, of course, you don't. You got to save her. And so Ichinose... Oh, go ahead.
I'll say I do feel the next part is more of the frustrating parts is, Ichinose get the laser out of nowhere, knocks them all out, and so you lose Sophia for this duration, but you have to work your way back through mementos to get back to Ichinose. But at that point, I'm out of so much stuff, and you can't leave.
Exactly. Yeah, it was a slog. That was probably one of the hardest points in the game, because you couldn't leave, and so they literally up this point were like, yeah, leave anytime, heal, every single checkpoint, leave, come back, it's fine, and then you couldn't. You're like, holy freaking heck. That was a rough one, and they still throw tons of strong shadows at you.
It was difficult. But once you get back, I felt honestly, I'm not sure you probably like Kenji, but I liked Sophia's Awakening a lot more than
Sophia's Awakening is my second favorite, so I'm right up there with you.
In terms of the whole franchise, or
yeah, in terms of the whole franchise, yeah.
Okay, I mean, I would put Sophia's Awakening above Senkichi's. Honestly, just for me personally.
I mean, that's not a wrong answer. I don't blame you for that at all. But so yeah, you reach back up to the top. You're carrying Sophia because you all got knocked down to the same place, and you leave Sophia outside to go fight Ichinose with the plan of Futaba's going to hack into the laser, given enough time, and stop it. Doesn't work. They are literally about to get blasted, and Sophia hears Joker and comes in to block the laser, and she's still struggling with her programming, and then you hear a voice, and it is her persona. And so up to this point, she has kind of had a persona of these 4 floating boxes.
But yeah, I liked the leading up to it, because you're kind of at that point when you're just talking back and forth with Ichinose, you're rooting for Rebel, what it's going to lead to.
Yep.
So you're kind of hoping to do it, and I like it so much because of the simplicity of it. Where she just says, "I refuse your command," and it starts.
Exactly. And yeah, it was the I think it's the truest rebellion in the Persona 5 subseries, because she's literally telling something no. Yeah. And it sparks her awakening. Which I was this was at the point where I was playing in bed. It was 3 a.m. I was like, we're moving through this, and the whole time in that cutscene, I'm just like, come on, awaken to your persona. I know you have one. And then it happens, and her persona is revealed to be Pandora. And
that is brilliant.
So perfect, because what was in Pandora's box? After all the monsters got released, hope, and oh my god, it's
the fact that they had the boxes following you the entire game with her, and it was like, what are these boxes? Why she have them? And all of a sudden, when the boxes are pulling on top, oh my god, the persona's the box. That's amazing.
It was amazing. It was amazing. And then you get a. Then you get a fight against a bunch of shadows, and you're slinging spells with Pandora, and you distract Ichinose long enough where Futaba does get the hack on the laser, and you get this really, really, really amazing back and forth between Sophia and Ichinose about Ichinose's trauma of feeling like she was inhuman because she couldn't relate to other people and stuff, and it really showed how far Sophia has come being with the Phantom Thieves in terms of learning about humanity, And it's just a super great moment. Probably the strongest moments in the game, I would say.
Yeah, yeah, I would definitely say the strongest moment.
Yeah, and then you, with Ichinose's blessing, you go take it to the god, essentially.
This part was okay.
Yeah, I was trying to find the words.
It was okay because I mean it's what you expected. It's a Persona game. You're gonna fight the god.
I will say. Oh, go ahead.
I was gonna say the issue again. We'll kind of circle back to where we were saying earlier. The issue comes again where, I mean, if we're just compared to base, she's God of Control 2.0.
Yep.
But Yellowbolt wasn't that great of a final boss anyway. I think he's better than the Demiurge, which Emma becomes once you get back up to her. But because I mean, I think versus Yellowbolt versus the Demiurge is Yellowbolt was a manifestation of humanity's, will to be controlled.
Yes.
Whereas Emma was just an AI who thought she knew better.
Yeah. I would agree with that. The plot element of Yaldabaoth being this entity that was brought on by humanity, and the Phantom Thieves were trying to free them of that, is way cooler than I want to control everything for the betterment of people. No one gets free will. No one does things. I'm all powerful. Ha 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 ha.
But he also circles back to role because that's what Marky was. But Marky did it so much better.
Yeah, Marky did it in a sincere wanting to help kind of way rather than a wanting to control kind of way. Yeah, and yeah, the two final villains coming off of Royal just do not land as gracefully as I think the developers would have hoped they would. And I think that's why I think that's why there's no Royal references at all, because I think they want this to be a sequel to the base Persona 5, because if it's anything else, it's lesser than.
Yeah. But even then against Yaldabaoth, it's just you're not as good as Yaldabaoth, and you're just clearly just trying to be him again.
Yes. I will say that the fight was very, very good. I
think that was the easiest, honestly. I thought it was super easy at that point. It was a little tricky when they Final Fantasy 7 is like you have to use everybody now, but I built a team in such a way where I didn't have to worry too much.
Yeah, no, I didn't think it was the easiest, but it definitely was one of the easier ones. So you fight it a little bit just with your team, and then the boss pulls out something where you can't hit it anymore, and you have to split your team up to go kill these orbs. And I thought that was a really cool moment. Because it was the first time you got to see all of the Phantom Thieves working together, essentially. And I liked how they kind of time warped the gameplay so that you felt like it was all happening at the same time.
I thought it was pretty cool. I did like that.
So I thought that was a pretty strong moment gameplay wise. But then we got Booger photobombing here. We got It was just nice to see all the Phantom Thieves working together at the same time. But I mean, the boss fight was lackluster, definitely.
I did like, but I mean, it doesn't compare how the other two boss fights ended. But I did like the use of we're gonna see an all attack of all 9 of them.
Yes.
9?
10.
10 now.
10
now, yeah.
Yeah.
So that was cool.
Yeah. It definitely ended on a strong note with the all out attack.
Yeah.
Yeah. Then the game ends. You take the RV back to Shibuya, and you drop off Zenkichi along the way so that he can see Akane and take Awada in. So he gets his little happy ending, and then Sophia asked to stay with Joker and Morgana, to which they happily oblige, and they meet up in Shibuya one last time, and for everybody to say goodbye and to go their separate ways again. And Ichinose shows up to say that she's sorry and wants to travel the world, and Sophia asks to come with her, and then everybody goes off on their merry way. Very, very cool ending. I think you got to see a lot of the characterization from all of the characters. And I think Ryuji gets the best moment of that cutscene where he just turns around and puts his thumbs up and just walks on. I'm like, that's very Ryuji. All right.
Funny enough, I did not intend this at all because when you name your streams, you name something. When I started the stream, I named it "Until Next Time, Phantom Thieves," and that's literally the last line of the game.
Oh man.
Oh my
Psychic.
This worked out too well.
And so yeah, that's the end of the game. I think we're both in agreement to what the best moment of the game was. Haru behind the wheel.
Oh, so yes, that was something.
Yeah, so as we've gotten to say multiple times throughout this game, the best parts of it were just the Jokers interacting with each other. And so on the drive back to Kyoto, because you stopped there previously on the way. On the drive back to Kyoto, Makoto can't drive anymore because she's like hurt her
lower back.
Yeah, hurt her lower back.
Wait,
so
fun fact: the same time I was playing that game, I know Makoto's like the best.
Oh jeez.
My lower back was hurting too because of my mattress.
Oh my god.
I relate.
Ay. All right. But so the only other person that has a license in the Phantom Thieves is Haru, and so she's hinted at it all game that she can drive if Makoto needs to. She can drive if Makoto needs to, and she drove, and boy did she drive. So when they get back to Zenkichi's hideout, the whole cast is like haggard and like scared because Haru drove like it was Grand Theft Auto. And,
Grand Theft Auto a little scared.
Yeah. So when she gets behind the wheel, her spell emblem pops up, and that was the moment I was like, "Oh no!"
Just the moment it got to me was before even that is like you're all sitting like the rest of the country's in the background like it's just okay, and Makoto's just like, yeah, I'm trying to tell you guys how do changes after
and then she gets like these angry eyes and the spell emblem pops up with her face.
Like she's like this the whole time and it just like turns out like, oh god, he's a maniac. They lead into Haru being a tsundere so much in this. I love it. No, not tsundere, yandere.
Yes. Yes. And then so they get to Zenkichi's hideout and the whole cast is just like, we've seen some shit.
I mean, y'all both wasn't that scary. That wasn't as scary as Haru's driving.
But yeah, so that was just hilarious. Just absolutely hilarious. But what were some other moments that stood out for you as we're approaching probably time to wrap up here? You know, what were some other moments that stuck out to you?
I mean, Haru seems probably like the best moment of the game. I mean, I did like the moments of like I think when back in Sapporo, I think it's she's confused. My names get confusing.
Yep.
But when you're out of the fountain, you're just talking with Haru. Haru is like letting you know like her confliction with the entire thing. That was a good moment. Did you? I'm not sure what you did. After you beat Konoe, and there was like, yeah, we're just gonna chill out in Osaka for a minute and then go up to the tower. Did you go with the guys? Or did you go with the girls?
I went with the guys.
Boy, I went with all the girls.
Okay, great. So we can share experiences. Yeah. So at certain moments of the game, you get to pick somebody to go with you. So the first time was in
I think it was Sapporo again.
Sapporo, yeah. Yeah, and you got to go on a Ferris wheel, and you got to pick one of the persons. I picked On, because I love rubbing it in Morgana's face.
Expect that.
Yeah, you picked Makoto, obviously. But later, oh yeah. But later in the game, you get to they're seeing the sights after you in Osaka, and there's this tower where you can like see the whole city, and you can either choose to go with the guys or go with the girls. I chose to go with the guys. And Morgana asked me why I didn't go with the girls, because Yusuke and Ryuji were just being idiots, essentially.
I mean, yeah.
I chose with go with the guys. I was like, all right, guys, night out. Let's go. Let's go cause some trouble. But what happened with when you went with the girls?
So it's Makoto Haru on Futaba, and obviously Sophia's with you no matter what because she's on your phone. So and Morgana's with you too. So you go up to the top and they're all talking, talking about the city, and then they all notice that everyone's around them's all coupley and stuff. And all the girls notice that too, and they're just like, "Huh, this is weird." And Sophie decides to drop a bomb in Joker's lap.
Oh, damn!
By asking in front of everyone, if you could go on a date here with one of them, who would it be?
Do you get to answer? Do you get to answer?
Not the way I wanted to.
Oh, damn!
I was like fully expecting all the names pop. I'm like, well, sorry everybody. Nope, it was all like coy statements. One was like, I'm all I need. I think one was I can't say. One was like the one I love, and I put the one I love, and all were like, so what's that supposed to mean? Yeah, tell us. I was like, oh god.
That's great. That's great. I wish I would have went with the girls now. I'm upset about that now. But yeah, I mean we're approaching an hour and 40 minutes here, so it's probably time to kind of get to concluding this. I think we covered everything pretty well. I mean, this is absolutely a worthy successor. Dare I say this is probably Omega Force's best game. Just in terms of combat variety, in terms of just overall quality, I would definitely say this is, if not the best, one of the best from Omega Force. I mean, you and I have talked previously about this, saying that we would like to see more of the Persona games like this in kind of a spin-off type format. Because I mean, it could work. You could bring in multiple casts of it. It could work with just the 4 casts if you wanted to do it just a 4-1. You can even bring the Phantom Thieves back. If I can play more Phantom Thieves, I'll go ahead.
Yeah.
Persona 5 Strikers 2, Electric Boogaloo in the United States. Let's go.
I'll take whatever. I mean, it's gonna be sad when 6 comes out and like, oh, they're not here anymore.
Exactly. Yeah. So until then, Persona 5 Strikers is definitely what the doctor ordered. It does have some problems in terms of story and in terms of gameplay, but the whole of the game is extremely solid. I think that's what we've said everything. If you haven't played it already, go buy it. If you haven't played Royal already, go buy it.
Yes,
and play it.
Especially Royal.
130 hours of gameplay flies by. With that being said, Nick, where can everybody find you?
So my Twitch channel is it's underscore classified underscore. So I'm sure you're just typing it's classified and I'll pop right up. Which is similar. It's underscore classified. I have an Instagram. I think it rarely gets used. So I try to stream every day except sometimes I'll just stream on Wednesdays, but I won't stream on Sundays. But typically stream late like evenings after I get off work right now. And I'm playing Godzilla right now, so check that out if you guys have it.
Yep. And my Twitch is dandelion underscore 777, and my Twitter is dandy underscore lion 777. Because there's other dandelions out there, and I don't know why.
That is weird.
Yes, it is.
I wouldn't have thought that, honestly.
Yes, and I will obviously link. Well, do you have a YouTube channel that I can link this for, or where's this video going for you?
I mean, I do have a YouTube channel, but I mean, don't you have a? I mean,
yeah,
but you have,
yeah.
I have a YouTube channel. I think it's classified. I think it's classified. I think it's classified games.
Well, you'll send it to me, and I'll make sure to link it in the description. I mean, you probably can upload. I'm going to email you this so you can upload it to your channel too and stuff. So, and this will probably be the first of many of these. Our games typically overlap quite significantly, so I'm sure we'll do more of these kind of discussion-based reviews in the future. It's probably on games that we both are playing and wanting to review. It's probably the easiest because I know you're playing Gosnia right now. I am almost 30 hours into Monster Hunter Rise.
Right.
So right now we're at a deviation point, but most times we're playing the same stuff.
I can't do Monster Hunter, unfortunately. I've tried it, and that's not my thing.
I'm not gonna go any further than that. But so if you have suggestions of games that you want to see us talk about, if you liked our opinions, be sure to let us know in the comments. Subscribe to all of our channels, follow all our social medias so you can follow us and all of our great and 100% true and accurate opinions. But we hope to see you next time. I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you so much. Good night, everybody.
Adios.